The topic we are going to consider here now is typography, which basically refers to the way we are going to present our text on our web page. So everything text with white spaces is under typography in CSS. So typography has a lot of properties, and some of these properties include the font family that sets the type of font we are supposed to use in our document. The font size, I think we have done a lot of stuff with font size. It tells us the size of the text we are using. Font weight also gives us the weight, how heavy the font should be. So we can have values like normal, bold, bolder, small, and the rest. We also have the font style, and this could be italic. We also have the oblique. The oblique combines bold and italic together. We have normal as well. And then we have text align. So that is the horizontal alignment of our text. And it could either be in the left, it could be in the right, it could be center. And then we also have the justify. And then we also have the text decoration that decorates our text for us. Our decoration could be underlined, so we can use this to underline our text just as we normally see in links. We can also give an overline so that the text would have a line over it. We could also have the line through. That one, the line will be striking through our text. So let's head over VS Code and practice some of our typography features. I'll see you in VS Code. So here in VS Code, we have our folder open. Let us create a new folder and then name this folder typography. And then within the typography, we are going to have our file, typography.html. And then within this, we have our image and all the other stuff. Let us give a paragraph lorem 20. Let's give about 5 paragraphs. So 5 of them. Oh, that's so sad. Let's go back again. So paragraph multiplied by 5 greater than lorem 20. That's very fine now. Let us inspect our site on the live server. Okay, so this is our site now. And now let us practice some of our typography features. So let me dock this to the left nicely. And then that's to the right. Let me close the file tree. Close the file tree and then press Alt Z so that we can wrap all these contents around it. So all the letters that were not being wrapped around, right now we can see that our Control Z wrap them around. Now the first thing we are going to practice with could be we have also worked with color. So let's begin with the direction. So let's create a CSS. So we can go with typo.css, and then P, we are going to have text direction. No, let's make it direction instead of, and then we can have left to right, which is the default way our text is displayed. So let us link our file now. Link href typo.css. We change it. And now let's change it to right to left. And let's see. So you can now see that our direction is moving from our right side to the left side. So it looks like right justified or our right aligned. Now let's look at text decoration. So we take this off because this isn't something we'll be using often. So text decoration, and then you can see all of a sudden that we have setting decoration. So overline will give us a line over the text itself, just as we said. Let's begin with underline. This underlines our text nicely for us. Let's inspect some other. We have dashed. Let's see how dashed is going to work. Okay, so dashed is not working for us. Let's look at another. We have line through, yes. Let's go with line through. Line through is working just fine. And then let's see if there's any other text decoration we can go with. So if you have a link, you know that by default, links are underlined, but you can set it to none. If you set text decoration to none in links, it removes all the underlining feature you find in the link. We'll do that when we begin to style links. So let us leave that for now. Let's move to text decoration. Text transform. So text transform, I think we've seen this before. We can capitalize it. That means that all the first letters would begin with a capital letter in every line. We can convert everything into lower, and so everything becomes a lowercase. What else can we do? We can also move into uppercase. So everything becomes an uppercase letter. I think we have seen this before. Let us look at text align. So we can go to the text alignment. Let's center everything so we can see that everything is being centered nicely here. That is text align center. So the distance between the left and the right is equal. That is what we mean by. Let us increase the size of the paragraph. Let us create another paragraph with lorem. Let's go for about lorem 500 and see what is going to happen. So you can see that the distance between the left and the right is almost the same. So on this line is the same as what we have here. On this line, what we have on the left is the same as what we have on the right. That is what the text align center does. Let us look for align left, and that is the default way our text are aligned. Let us go to right align. You can see now that the text begins on the right. Everything looks as if the right line or the right vertical line is the same, but the left is not aligned properly because we have moved the text line alignment towards the right. And we can also go with justify. Justify. So what does the justify do? So the justify ensures that we have the same amount of text on both the left and the right side, and everything is wrapping up just nicely. So almost equal number of text on each line. Let us also move to text indent. Text indent. Let's give it a unit of size and let us see what is going to happen. So with a text indent, the beginning line would be indented. So the first word will get some amount of indentation. So let's make it about 20 pixels so that we see it clearly. So you can see that there has been about a 20 pixel of indentation. That is what the text indent does for us. Now let's look at text align last. Text align last. What is that going to do for us? Let us center align that. So that aligns our very last line. So on every paragraph, the very last line on that paragraph moves to the center. So that is what text align last does for us. Let us move to more typography stuff. So we wouldn't waste much time at all. Let us go to line height. Line height, let's give it a line height of. So that is basically the spacing between each of the letters. Let us give it a size 2 rem. So that is basically the spacing between this line and that line. So there are sometimes you would want to increase or decrease the spacing due to how legible you want your text to be. We also have letter spacing. So line height has been applied. We have letter spacing. Let's give letter spacing. Let's give it about 2 rem. That is not so good. Let's give it 0.5 rem. That is also not so good. Let's give it about 0.2. So that basically refers to the spaces that exist between each letter. So you know what letter spacing does. We also have what we call the word spacing. So let's try word spacing. Word spacing. Let's make it about 0.2 rem. So the spaces between each of the words, particular words. So that is what we refer to as word spacing. And now we also have white space. Let us look at what white space does for us. So white space is, let's give it no wrap. White spacing. Where is my mouse now? White spacing. I'm so sorry. Let's go white space here. No wrap. Good. So this is what I wanted you to see. Initially, you could see that whenever the screen size is exhausted, the text wraps onto the next line. But after we set our white space to no wrap, the text is extending so far as it can or as long as it can. It is not wrapping. So that is why we have this horizontal scroll bar here, just to ensure that our text is not wrapping. So that is the use of the white space attribute. We have done text decoration. But one thing I want to show you about text decoration, let me take this off, is that text decoration in itself is a shortcut. So you can specify text decoration as line through, and then what should be the size of the line that is passing through. We can make it 5 pixels, and then what kind of line should pass through. Is it a dashed line? We made a mistake here. So this is a dashed line that is going through. So you can remember that initially we gave text decoration as dashed and it didn't work because it was looking for us to set other properties before it works. So let us change this into about 1 pixel and then we'll see our dashes very well. Let's go to 2 pixels. You can see that our line through. So we can use this to underline with a dashed underline. So this is a very nice typography feature. So just know that text decoration in itself is a shortcut. We also have the font width. Let us comment this out by pressing Control and the / key. And then font, we have done font size, so we can go to font width, and we can have certain features like bold that will bolding up our text. We can even have bolder that will make our text bolder than the bold itself. And our normal font width is around 400. So you can see that when we set our font weight to 400, nothing changed because that is basically our normal font weight. We can make it lighter. Let's set it to 100 and then see. This 100 isn't really working. I'm not seeing any difference. Okay. It looks like it was working. Let's see. Let's go for 400 again. That isn't really working. But let's go for something around 900 and see it. Okay, so 900 is working. So for this font, it ranges. Let's see if we can make it lighter than it used to be. So we are not seeing the lighter attribute so well here, but I guess you know what this does. There are some fonts that their lighter weight will be really visible, so you can go on to experiment with that. I think a font like Nonito can give you a very light feature that you would want to see. But we'll get there when we start practicing with Google Fonts. So right now we haven't set our font family. We'll set it very, very soon. Let's look at font style. We also have font style, and then that could be italic. We are going to italize everything. We can also have oblique. And just as I mentioned, the italic, the oblique gives a combination of italic and bold. So let me make this one, but this isn't really working. I think there's something wrong that we have to fix. But in actual sense, the font style oblique gives us a blend of the bold and italic. So you can experiment with that on other fonts. You can look out for a lot of font features by just typing font, and then you will see that we have a whole lot of font properties that you can set for your font. And then you can also get other typography features like text. So text indent, text rendering, text decoration color, and the rest. So this one, just as we set the text decoration, the color can also be set as either red or green or any other color. We also have text overflow that ensures that your text may not overflow depending on whatever value you set. And then we also have shadow. I think that is text shadow. Yeah. And with this, you can give it some colors, any color you want at all. So let's give 1 pixel red. Let's see if that is going to work. So we have added 1 pixel vertically and 1 pixel horizontally, to which is red as a shadow to our text. So let us make our font size bigger so that we can experiment with this. And I think let us come here and then look out for just one. So we can rather H2 and then font with shadow. So we have a H2 with font with shadow, and then let us target our H2 and then text shadow which is about 2 pixels, another 2 pixels. So you can see that we have pulled out a shadow out of this text. And then what should be the color of the shadow? We can make it red. And then you can see that the shadow that we pulled out is red in color. Let's make this 5. So you can see that horizontally it's moving so far away. Let's make the vertical also 5. You can see, so that is what the font, the text shadow does to our text. It behaves so nicely. Let us try another text shadow. Let us try this rather. 0 here, 0 there. We can try with 3 pixels and then give it a comma, and then 0 here, 0 there as well, 5 pixels. Let's give it a green and see what is going to happen. So here you can see that there's a mixture of the red and green. So the vertical and then horizontal colors are very different. So you can experiment with this nice glowing. Let's make this 10 and see what happens. So you can see it's appearing so nice. 10 here and 10 there. A nice font shadow effect has been created. Now let us move to font family. That is a very important feature we have to talk about. So font family, let us see what VS Code will provide us with. So font family, you see that as soon as we begin with font family, we can see that VS Code has given us a tall list of font families we can use. And these are actually generic font names. Okay, so some of the generic font names could be fantasy. So let us set our font. So we have set that to fantasy. And so when you are using fantasy, you are likely to be using the text spacing. Is that text spacing or letter spacing? Yeah, letter spacing. You can set it up to 2 pixels or something so that the words are spaced out very well. But let us keep concentrating on our font family. We also have a font called monospace. That is also a generic family. And so the monospace font is a font that has equal spaces between all the letters that you will see. And that is a generic font family. So a generic font family has a lot of fonts under it. So when you specify the generic name, it refers to a group of fonts themselves. Okay, so cursive is also a font family. So this is how cursive looks like. We also have area. Area is also a font family and it looks like, okay, so that is the area we are using. We also have the serif. That's also a font family, a nice font family, and it looks like by default our browser is using serif. We also have the sans serif. Yeah, and there is a difference. The difference between the serif and the sans serif is that serif has some bars at the end of it, but sans serif do not have bars at their end. So you normally see the sans serif in print media like newspapers, and then you see more of the sans serif in on computers or on screens because it's a well-known fact that the sans serif is more readable on computers or on screens as compared to its family member, the serif. So the serif font, just as I said, it's a generic font family, has some font types like the Times New Roman, Georgia, Garaman, and the rest, Garamond. Okay, so these are some of the fonts that are within sans serif, that are within serif. Okay, monospace has some fonts like Lucida. It also has Console, Monaco, and the rest. They are all found in the monospace font family. Okay, and just as we mentioned, monospace, they have the same amount of spacing between each letters. Now, one thing I want us to know is that when you are specifying a font family, like let us press our control and space bar and then we get our specification. If we press the tab key, you will notice that we have three different fonts that have been specified as values in the font family. The first one is Courier New. We also have Courier and then the monospace. So this is what is happening. These ones that have been specified at the back are called fallbacks. So in a situation where the computer that is viewing our web page doesn't have the Courier New, it falls on the Courier and then it falls on the monospace. Just as I mentioned, so Courier New is actually a font in the monospace font family. And that is what we call font safety or web font safety. You wouldn't want your page to break on a device that doesn't have the Courier New. So this is what the computer is seeing. On my page, make every paragraph belong to the font family Courier New. If the computer that is accessing the page doesn't have the Courier New font, look for Courier. If you don't see Courier, then look for the monospace family. So any font within the monospace family that is on the computer, please use that. And so if the computer doesn't have Courier New and doesn't have Courier, it may resort to any font like Lucida or Console or Monaco or even the Courier New. You get it? So this is what happens. So usually when you are specifying the fallback, you specify a generic family name so that even if the specific fonts you mentioned are not found on the computer, it gets a font family. So it is going to get any font that belongs to that specific family so that your website does not break on those devices. So let us experiment more font families. And mind you, when you have a font name that has two different words, you surround the name with a quotation mark, just as we can see in Korean. Let us look at more of them. Let's go for Franklin, and that is Franklin. So it means that the Franklin belongs to the sans serif family. So if you don't see Franklin, you go for area narrow and then it continues just like that. So you can experiment with the other font families. Impact is also there. Yeah. So that's it for the font family. I think you understand all that has been said. Now let us look at how we can get an external font from Google Fonts onto our web page. So these are default fonts that are provided by our HTML5, but you can use other fonts that have been created. These are very old fonts. So if you want to use a font like Montserrat, that is a very new font and a very nice and fancy font. How do we go about it? So let us look at that. So now we are connected to the internet. Let us look for my account, my Google account. I think my PC is. I just connected to the internet. Yeah. So this is my account. And then let us look for Google Fonts. Let me open my Visual Studio. Okay. I think everything is working. So Google Fonts, yeah. Let us open our Google Fonts now. So sorry about the slow internet, but I'm sure we are going to sail through quickly. The fonts are okay now. So we just go for this font. So we have seen Roboto here. Let us not go for Roboto. One of my favorite fonts is Montserrat. So we look for, you can browse through the fonts and then select any font you want. Let me go for Montserrat. So this is how Montserrat will look like. And these are thin and italic, extra light. All these are font widths or font styles that you can select from. But what I normally do is that I select the normal font, which is the regular, usually around this unit. So preview the text. So right now you can preview it here, but that is not what we need. So you can come to get fonts, and then there are ways in which you can get the font. So how do we get this font now? No, good. So you come to embed font. It looks like Google Font has changed its outlook. So we select the platform. Initially, you were not going to select any platform, but now we select the platform. But the truth is, let me see if I have any. Yeah, I've selected a lot of font weights. Let me take them off because that is going to slow down our load. It looks like I've set font weight 1 up to 900. Okay, that is going to reduce or that is going to affect our page load. Okay, but you let us maintain this for now. And there are two ways in which you can apply the font to your web page. Let me go by the first one by linking. So you copy the code here and now open your VS Code and then come to this place. Just as you link your CSS file, you open and then you link. So this is wrapping around. That is why it's looking so awful, but that is very okay. After linking, let us inspect and see if our font has changed. The truth is the font has not changed. Why? This is because, yes, we have linked our file or our online font to our HTML file. But you see, when you link a CSS file into your HTML file and you haven't specified any file or any family here or even any command here, let me comment this out. If you haven't specified any command here, you know that your CSS file, though it is correctly linked, it is not going to work. That is exactly what is happening. So we have linked our style or our font to our HTML file, the computer to use this font yet. So let's come to our Google Fonts page and then we can now copy the code here. This is where we assign the font family to Montserrat. And you can see Montserrat has a fallback of sans serif. So if we go and we don't have any Montserrat or if there is any problem, the computer is trying to access Google Fonts website and it's not being accessible, we rather instruct the computer to go in for sans serif. So, oh no, this is not what I'm supposed to show. And then let's come this way. I want us to inspect that in real time and see if it is going to change. So we can issue the whole thing in the body tag so that everything under the body inherits the Montserrat font. So let me take this off and then even take this off. And then the Montserrat identifier basically tells us what element we want to assign our font to. So this is where we put our body. So we want to assign it to the body, and so we put our body here. And you can see that as soon as we changed it, everything has changed to Montserrat. we can take this off and everything will work very, very fine. So we assign our font family to Montserrat. So as soon as we disconnect to the internet, when we load the page and the font has not been cached into our browser, then it is the sans serif that is going to work. So this is the first way that we can import or assign our font family as Montserrat. There's also another way using the CSS import. So let's come up here. So you have seen the first way now. Let us look at the second way. So this one we are going to import. So before we copy this, let us go back and then remove the code that we copied. So this was the code that Google Fonts gave us to link. So we have removed it now. And then let us take this off as well. So let's see if, so it has fallen back to where we started from. So we now look at the import. We copy the code here and then come and paste that into our CSS. So with the import, it works in the CSS. So we remove the style that has been assigned because the browser already knows this is a CSS file, and so we don't need to add any CSS again. And then we copy that same thing that we copied initially. So we come this way and then we paste it here. We know our identifier. Let me open the browser so that we see what is happening in real time. So let's take the font weight off. We wouldn't customize the font weight now.